All right, so when you came over to Novo, um, just after you left Rev, you called me and said that you wanted to get a couple of amps over here and you wanted to build a guitar to send it over. And I told you that, like, you knew me. I was, I'm a big Strat and Les Paul guy. And I'm like the Novo body shape. I didn't have any offset guitars at the time. And I was like, this isn't really my thing. I'm like, pick whatever you think that I'm going to like and build me that. And you're like, well, I think you would like the Serus J. I said, okay. I'm like, great. I'm like, build in black and white for me. I think you told me to go to your Instagram and find something that I thought looked good. And I'm like, okay, well, build me this. And I'm really bad I don't ever know the specs on anything that I own. Like, people ask me all the time what the pickups are in the Nick Johnson. I'm like, the pickups that come in the Nick Johnson. So I'd love for you guys to tell me a little bit more about, like, okay, what are the specs on, like, the Serus J that I have?
Yeah.
And why did you pick that guitar over your other models? Because I will say I was not expecting to love that guitar as much as I do. Like, it is my number 2 guitar. Like, my Schecter Nick Johnson is without a doubt my number 1 and probably always will be. But I was blown away at how great that neck is. And those P90s, I didn't have any other P90 guitars. Normally I got a Tom Anderson where I asked him to do HSS because I was like, I don't like noisy pickups. And that, like, the Serus J sounds so good. No matter what you're playing. Like, it doesn't matter if it's clean or it's high gain. It is so good. So, school me a little bit on what my guitar actually is.
Sure.
And tell me why you chose that.
I thought of the Serus J originally when we were talking because, well, number one, because it's our best selling model.
Okay.
This seems to be the guitar that most people kind of identify with who we are.
Yeah.
So selfishly, I thought, well, if there's a guitar that's going to be on like the Rev Time videos and stuff, I'd like it to be like the best seller. But also, I knew that it would kind of fill a hole that you didn't have in your arsenal. Because I know you didn't have any guitars that had this type of like Jazz Mastery trem on it.
Yeah.
Which we use the Mastery trem. We'll get into specs in a second, but and I had a feeling that you'd like the P90s just because I know, like, I kind of have a sense of like the tones that you did gravitate towards.
Yep.
And these are really great for that kind of angry. Like, there's a reason why guys like Phil X, gravitate towards the P90 because it's kind of got the articulation, but they're not overly hot to where they're like,
right,
losing any kind of like nuance to them. And then as far as your guitar, I think your guitar is almost identical to this guitar, with the exception that I believe we did block inlays on it. Did we do block inlays? Yeah, block inlays. And I believe we did binding on the neck as well. Yeah, binding and blocks, which is a common upgrade for these. This is a Nucleus model, so this is kind of our off-the-shelf, most popular configurations. We did that in the Nucleus models, kind of like our core line of specs. But yeah, so you're talking about the pickups. The pickups are Fralin P90s.
Okay.
So they're his like kind of his he makes like an Alnico.
Yeah.
And he makes a couple other versions, but these are just like, if you just look up Fralin P90s, these are them.
Cool.
Yeah, standard wines on those. Everything just kind of stock from Fralin.
Yeah, nothing overwound.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I think that you and I were talking about off camera was the resonance of the guitar. So part of that has to do with the fact that it's actually a roasted or tempered pine body.
Yep.
Which is kind of unusual. Like, pine was popular. Like, Leo Fender used a lot of pine early on, and then they made the transition to doing more alder and ash. And pine can be difficult to work with, which is why I think a lot of people don't go for it, because it can be soft and it'll ding and dance.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be real sappy and difficult to work with. But Dennis found that when he got it tempered, roasted in an oxygen-free kiln, it made it a lot more stable, a lot easier to work with, and it's just like super resonant.
Yeah. Well, I think part of what made me love that guitar is that I feel like the acoustic properties of it translate even when you're playing through an amplifier, so it feels better to play. And I don't know if that's just because of the vibration of the guitar that it just ends up feeling better. So it doesn't feel stiff, where I've got a lot of other guitars that they'll sound great, but I find them like less inspiring to play because they feel stiff no matter what, whether it's plugged in or unplugged. So
Yeah, I don't know all the science that goes into it, but
that's the science that goes into.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you for clearing that up.
You're welcome.
But yeah, there is something to, typically like when a guitar sounds good unplugged, it's gonna sound good plugged in.
Yeah.
And then of course the neck is also tempered maple.
Yeah.
And then yours has a rosewood fingerboard just like this one does. I think another thing is the nitro finish is super duper thin. I mean, obviously you can see we do this texturizing process, so you can the grain kind of pops through.
Yep.
But you have to put a really thin finish on that to really be able to see and feel that.
Yeah.
So the guys in the paint booth, they do a really good job of applying like ultra thin layers and just the bare minimum.
Yep.
Because every guitar we do eventually does get distressed to some level. Like
Yep.
we do offer an XL, which is essentially no intentional aging, but it still gets the finish checking and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So that's I think that's another big part of it. And then I think another thing is like the distressing that they do to the back of the neck. I mean, there's just not a lot of guitars, in my opinion, that feel like this.
The neck on it, that's the first thing I notice about any guitar when I pick it up. And that is primarily what makes or breaks a guitar for me right away is how does the neck feel? And for my hands, the Serus J's neck was perfect.
Cool.
Like it was as close as like that Schecter is like my kind of barometer for things, right? And it was the closest shape and feel to the Schecter out of anything else that I have or have played.
That's awesome.
Which I know wasn't intentional. Like that's like you didn't shape the neck specifically for me. Like it's the stock carve, I'm sure.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that struck me when I came to work here. I was like, man, Dennis must be really confident about these neck shapes because we only offer two.
Yeah.
We offer a medium and a chunky, and that's it. And the one that you love is the medium C.
Yeah.
Which is my favorite too. I want to love a chunky neck, but my hands aren't particularly large, so they're just like I have a hard time. I like to put my phone over the top a lot when I'm playing, and I just can't.
Helps with your Sheryl acrylics.
Exactly.
Yeah. See.
Classic. I hear this every couple days.
Anyway, so and then the last thing I just want to talk about, since we're talking about this guitar and how it's similar to the one you have, yours has the older style mastery vibrato on it, but this is something that we just launched this year.
Yeah,
a collaboration.
It's got your logo on it.
Exactly, yeah, a collaboration with the Mastery guys. So this is the Mastery NV tremolo system.
Okay.
And it's basically a different shaped plate, and then we've got this arm with the bend in it as well. This was something that Dennis and the folks over at Mastery came up with, and in an effort to kind of keep this angle constant here, but then get the bar out of your way over here.
Gotcha.
So, and plus it looks cool. Call it the lightning bolt, or the Harry Potter scar.
Yeah. I like I said, I didn't have any other offsets at the time.
Yeah.
It is the only one that I have that has that style of trem on it, and I think that's probably the thing that anybody who's played it at the shop comments on the most is how smooth the trem is, how useful it is. Like you do dive bombs with it and it comes back.
Yeah.
So like Sam was blown away that like he could play modern metal riffs on it all day long and like it handled it as well as anything else we have, which that doesn't happen with most guitars. So
yeah. It took me a while because I was definitely more of a Strat player like growing up. Yeah. So I'm used to the feel of a Strat trem. Yeah. And this is a much subtler feel, but it actually has quite a bit of travel as well if you depress it all the way. So it's I find like it's kind of a more precision trem for me.
Yeah.
Like I tend to do like wider moves with a Strat style trem, whereas with this one it's a lot more like just subtle moves like that.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan as well.
Cool. So what are the other models that you guys offer? Because I know like Rob Baker just got a guitar from you guys and shot a killer video.
Yeah. We did a custom color for Rob. So we did he sent us a shot of this. It was a Corvette, I believe, in this cool like metallic green. This is not that. This is a color called Uffington Green.
Okay.
Which is a cool color that DF came up with based on an album cover that he loves by the band XTC, right? Yeah.
XTC's English Settlement.
English Settlement, yeah. So this is like there's a picture of that the white horse in the UK there.
Yep.
And this is kind of a match to the color of the field. So
Cool.
kind of cool. There's a lot of stories behind a lot of the stuff that DF comes up with. But yeah, this guitar, what we were talking about on the Serus J, that those Fralin pickups are just the stock Fralin pickups.
Yep.
This is also a Fralin pickup, but this is a 5% overwound dog ear P90. And everybody in the shop kind of refers to the M1 as kind of like the tone machine. This guitar just like sings. It's something about this pickup, the wrap over bridge, which is a custom wrap over bridge we have made for us. Pine body again, tempered maple neck, rosewood fingerboard. This is a shorter scale length, so this is 24 and 3/4 inch.
Yeah.
And it just, plug this thing in. There's something about a guitar with one pickup, I think, that just like.
And that's the chunky neck, isn't it?
And this is the chunky neck. Yeah.
I can see it. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Rob, the other difference is that Rob's didn't have this German carb. This is an option.
Okay.
So it's standard on the Nucleus model, but when you custom order, you can order it without that or with it.
Yep. It's comfortable. I mean, I like what do you call it, a medium C?
Yeah.
I like it more, but it's not like I think because your necks are so smooth, it's not like a 50s neck Les Paul where you're like,
yeah,
it's going to stick the whole way and it's going to be super fat.
Yeah, or like some of those V necks where like they feel good playing certain things and then you go to like play a solo and you're like, oh, I don't know where I am at all.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so
that's the Solus.
And then there are two other models,
yeah,
right?
But before we move on from this, I just want to talk about, we have a few different configurations within the Solus body shape. We have the M1, which is this. We have the H2, which is basically the same guitar, but with two humbuckers and a two-pneumatic.
Okay.
Bridge and tailpiece. And then we also have the F2, which is the Telly ashtray bridge with the Fralin Telly pickup and then a Fralin P90 in the neck.
Cool.
So Devin actually Devin's been with Novo a lot longer than I have. So you wanna take a little turn explaining this guitar?
Idris. This was our we needed something for Strat players, so we came up with this. Strat pickups, man-made bridge. So this vibrato is from John Mann, and I think he had worked on some of the original PRS trims back in the old days.
Gotcha.
Incredible, super smooth feel. Really love it. Same thing, pine body. Tempered pine, tempered maple neck, whole thing. But 3 finish hot Fralin Strat pickups. On this one, we also offer this with the HSS. As well. And we have a custom order version that's 2 humbuckers.
Gotcha.
But for this one, we do, master volume, master tone, and then we have a bridge neck blend.
Okay, yeah. That's cool.
Too. Mm-hmm. The HSS, we do a series parallel push.
Okay.
On that one too. So a lot of different options. I really love this trim. I mean, it feels just really smooth. It's a little bit floating, so you can pull up just a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's great. For a 6-screw trem, it has a really smooth feel, and it's got a lot of stability tuning-wise, which is typically an issue with, 6 screws always like the compromise. Like a 6-screw sounds better, but a 2-post will perform better in terms of like stability and all that.
Yeah, I dig this a lot. I mean, I think for a lot of us too, like everyone's first guitar was a Squire. You know what I mean? So like this just feels, has a nice feel to it. And like I said, we really wanted to like do something that's like our take on kind of a lot of traditional Strat, type appointments. I think this guitar is great. I love this combination, this amber with black. Like this 70s look is like a big, it has been a big Novo thing, I think, for us. Like with talking to Dennis and over the years, just like something like this combination is just like that's the one right there. So this is one of my favorites.
Very cool.
Yeah,
nice work. Uh-oh.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
You want to grab the Voltur?
Yeah.
So the first time I saw the Voltur, I was at this country festival that I go to every year at home as a rigger. And this guy walks out and he's got a Novo. And I was like, I have to take a picture of this and send it to Travis. Because I'm like, we never see them at that festival, right? So I was like, hey man, I'm like, I'm like, do you mind if I get a picture? It's a nice guitar. Do you mind if I get a picture of you with the guitar? He's like, sure. And I didn't know who he was. I actually knew his band. I didn't know. It was James Barker from James Barker Band. And I knew the James Barker Band, but I'd never seen them live.
Right.
So right away, he was like, oh, he's like, do you know Novo? I'm like, yeah. I said, I said, Travis used to work for us. And I said, and I hadn't got the Serus J yet. I said, I'm actually getting one pretty soon. And he's like, oh, I love them. And I said, yeah. I said, are you one of their artists? He's like, no, I just bought this because they're amazing. And I had never seen this body style, or I hadn't seen it yet at that point. And yeah, that was the first time I'd seen it, which it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of more of a rock machine, you know, kind of definitely a nod in the direction of some iconic Gibson shapes. But in typical Dennis Fano style, you know, he has to take it and tweak it a little bit. So, so you know, the first thing that takes us in a totally different direction is the chop telly bridge here with the three saddles, and then you've got this Fralin unbucker, which is basically a mismatch humbucker that sounds really good split.
Okay.
And then the this is a Lawler staple P90, right? Yeah, Lawler staple P90. And then you can split the humbucker there. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. And then similar specs, pine body, tempered maple neck. This one's got the shorter scale length and the chunky neck on it. Rosewood board. And yeah, it's just a kind of a rock and roll machine. At NAMM, we introduced kind of what we call like a J version of that. So 2 P90s and a mastery trem, which is a cool option too. Yeah, you can really hear the. It's funny how much you can hear the bridge. You know what I mean? Like, really, you can tell that's a.
Yeah.
It makes sense that this would be popular, especially for like more modern country, because it can kind of still twang a little bit.
Yeah.
But it also rocks, right? Which is kind of where a lot of modern country sits.
Yeah. But they all feel great. I can't say enough how much I love how you finish your necks. Like, even the fact that this is the chunky neck doesn't bother me nearly as much because it's so smooth.
Yeah.
As it does on other guitars with fat necks. So.
That's usually the probably the most common feedback I get on our guitars is how much people love the necks.
Yeah. The rest of it's garbage.
I mean, the rest of it's hot garbage.
Yeah.
And then there's really just one what were we gonna say?
I was gonna say it is easy to transition between the neck shapes and the scale lengths and everything. Like,
yeah, they don't feel miles apart.
No, I mean you can tell the difference. You go, oh, this is chunky, this is medium. But I mean, I've picked up every Novo we've made here in Nashville pretty much, and it's like it's easy for me just to strum on, to play any of them. It just feels comfortable.
I've never noticed a difference for myself switching between scale lengths. Unless it's like a baritone or something like where you're really reaching, like going back and forth between Strat and like Les Paul scale length.
Never a big thing for you. Same.
No.
Do you use the same string gauge on both?
No, I use 11s on Les Pauls, and I use 10 to either
46 or 48,
52 normally, like, or now 10 to 50 because now I started using String Joy or 10.5 to fit. Yeah.
Yeah, what's what we use on all these string joys?
String joy,
they're
awesome.
10s on the 25.5 inch, and then 11s on the shorter scale.
I mean, I had never tried their stuff, and then Blake sent me some of their stuff to, like, he sent us like 10 or 15 sets to try out on guitars just to see what we liked, and nothing has ever really made me consider not using D'Addario stuff or D'Addario stuff, however I'm supposed to say it. Until the string boy stuff, and I was like, yeah, dude, I'll absolutely, like, I told him, I'm like, I love what you do, so I'll buy your strings instead of D'Addario. But yeah,
they're right down the street too.
I knew they're here. I didn't know
literally
they're there.
They're on Elm Hill Pike.
Oh, cool.
You go here after we're done.
Nice. Should.
Yeah. And then last guitar is that Mirus J. You want to grab that?
Yeah.
So the Mirus J is kind of essentially the hollow body version of the Serus J that you already have. I mean, obviously there are some differences. The main difference being this is going to be I think of all this is the only guitar out of the bunch we've seen that doesn't have a pine body. This is Swamp Ash.
Okay.
And we do that because it's chambered
Right.
And we just have better luck with the swamp ash. The pine can be a little challenging at times with the chambering. So, yeah, swamp ash body, but pretty much all the same appointments. Frailin P90s, the same mastery trem, tempered maple neck, rosewood fingerboard, the usual. This year we changed we used to have what we called an S hole here, and this has now gone to like the cat scratch style F hole here, and then contoured back. This used to be like a slab body. Now we've got the round over on the back, tummy cut just for a little bit more comfort.
Yeah, fat boy cut.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Dad. We call that the dad bod contour.
Yeah.
And that the theory proves out because Devin's the only one here who doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
We got kids. Look at us.
Yeah.
No.
Look at him.
It just keeps getting worse. Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
This is what I got for my employee guitar,
nice.
and one of the reasons I got it is because it sounds so good acoustically. I can just sit and pick it on the couch, and it's kind of fun to play even just without being plugged in.
And this Cat's Eye Burst finish may have been, I don't remember, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but might have been the first finish we did on the Mirus
okay.
when we made the first one. So
Yep.
it's kind of been like the signature, really like the classic look for the Mirus is that Cat's Eye Burst finish. I think we did it for Matthew Sweet. I think that was maybe the first time he got a guitar. Yeah. He's had a bunch of Novos and he had a bunch of known Dennis for a long time.
We were over at Jeff King's place the other day, and I was like, we were on your website because we were telling Jeff that he needs to try something from you guys. And when we were looking at your artist roster, I was surprised, and Rob Baker pointed out that you guys have a lot of Canadian guitar players.
Yeah.
Like Stephen Page, yeah.
Bare Naked Ladies.
Bare Naked Ladies and Joey and and
who else is Canadian? Is Corey Taylor Canadian?
No, he's Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was surprised because you guys haven't had dealers in Canada until recently.
Yeah.
So I hadn't ever seen your guitars until my brother Scott was a big guitars fan.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott would talk to me about Novo, and then when you started talking to me about Novo, before you came here, that originally we were talking about like you guys moved into the space and you were leasing out space and were going to look for an office down here. That was kind of when I first heard about Novo, really. Apart from my brother being like, "Oh yeah, you should check this out," and my brother's a big hipster and I'm not, so anytime he tells me to check something out, I'm like, sure, yeah. But yeah, so I was kind of surprised that your guys reach into Canada, because of that. But okay, so the last thing I was going to ask you about them, because we didn't talk about any of this, like price point wise, most people order direct from you because you really only have dealers outside of the U.S., right? Like you pretty much deal direct within the U.S. and then have some dealers in other territories where it makes sense to.
That's how we've been doing it so far since last year.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we went direct with our ordering back in 2020. We used to have dealers prior to that, obviously, just before my involvement with the company. But we are actually in the process of opening a few U.S. dealers as well. But,
cool.
But as of right now, today, yes.
Okay.
If you wanted a guitar from us, you would order it direct.
Cool. So go check out Novo Guitars. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about price points on anything?
Yeah. They have it. You have it on your website, but
do.
You're around like $3,000 and $4,500.
Yeah. You can go crazy with sparkle finishes and inlays and binding and drive that price up, But typically you're between $3,000 and $4,000 with most stuff.
That's great. Like I know a lot of people that get kind of hung up on once instruments cross the $3,000 mark, but like you are really getting something that is, even if it's an off the shelf, it is still far more custom in my opinion than what you're getting when you buy from one of the big brands and you're buying just a US made guitar.
The reality is that every bit as much care goes into creating the guitar that you see on the shelf at a dealer than it would going into a custom order.
Right.
There is no difference in the way they're built. They're built on the same line by the same people. They don't know the difference when they're working on it. They don't know if it's going on a dealer's shelf or if it's for a customer. So they treat every guitar the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, for what you get, no offense to our friends over at Fender and Gibson, but for what you get for $3,000 to $4,000 from them versus what you get here, I mean, it is night and day different, in my opinion. I would not buy some of those other guitars at that price point, but I absolutely would buy another Serus J. So yeah, thanks for hanging out and
Man, thank you.
telling me about the other models and start figuring out what else I want.
Yeah. Guitar number 2, something
Yep.
a little different.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
No problem.